Welcome to One on One, the Daily Items digital program featuring Susquehanna Valley newsmakers interviewed by Daily Item reporters. Today's guest is State Representative David Rowe, interviewed by Eric Scicchitano.
Sunbury Motors gives you 4 city blocks of new Fords to choose from. Sunbury Motors Ford is coming off their best-selling year in its 105-year history, and they feel pretty good about themselves. SMC has committed to Ford Motor Company to sell 1,000 new Fords in 2020. That means you get to pick from 25 of the totally redesigned 2020 Ford Escapes that start as low as $21,960. Take up to $6,500 off MSRP of the all-new 2020 Ford Explorer, and they're priced from just $34,865. Sunbury Motors is Central PA's truck capital. It's right there on the map. Choose from over 120 new Ford F-150s and Super Duties. The F-Series truck has been the #1 selling vehicle for 43 consecutive years, and SMC has them on sale for as low as $26,794. If you're smart, you'll buy one today. Sunbury Motors in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, proudly serving the Susquehanna Valley's transportation needs for over a century. Sunbury Motors.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Items One-on-One. I'm Eric Scicchitano, and today we're here with State Representative David Rowe. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, Mr. Rowe joined the House via special election last summer. Do you like Mr., by the way?
It's fine.
He serves parts of both Snyder and Union counties, and you're seeking election this year to a full term. So, have you kicked into gear yet with your election campaign?
Oh, absolutely. We had a campaign sit down the other night, putting together. It's petition time, so we're getting ready to pass petitions. Got to get a minimum of 300, but any buffer you can build there is great. So we're aiming for over 1,000. I've got several dozen people in both counties working on passing my petitions, and Congressman Fred Keller's petitions. We're working hand in hand with him. So it's. Gears are getting ready to turn. Once January 28th hit, the wheels are going to start turning.
And as of right now, no official opponent in either the primary or the general.
Not that I've heard.
Yeah. So this week you had, yesterday, you had a bill pass. Was that your first bill that passed as the prime sponsor?
It was. Yes, it was.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It was part of a package of bills addressing human trafficking. So the bill amends the Domestic Relations Act, and it adds strangulation and human trafficking, among other offenses like murder and ag assault, for judges to consider when they're weighing child custody. How did you get involved in this, and what inspired you to act on this matter?
So the state of Pennsylvania is unfortunately one of the top 10 human trafficking states nationally. We've got particular hotspots. We've got the Route 30 corridor that is more or less the trafficking highway of America. There are some really shocking and statistics out there, things like the average age that a person is pressed into some sort of sexual servitude, human trafficking, is age 12. There's other numbers, things that once a person is brought into this world of human trafficking, their lifespan becomes an average of 7 years, regardless. Yeah. So, that is just a horrible thing that we're looking at, comparing those numbers, comparing these average ages, these average lifespans. So the House Republican caucus put together a bill package sort of aimed at preventing the growth and spread of human trafficking, while also trying to enable local prosecutors, county district attorneys to have the means and the tools that they need to combat that. There's a series of bills. Each one sort of had a different focus on it. Senator Kristen Phillips Hill had her own bill that she added to the package as well. These bills did all pass with almost, I believe it was unanimous.
I think they were unanimous. Yeah, I believe there were five different bills.
Yep. And my bill specifically aims at that sort of prevention age. So a lot of times children that are trafficked are typically trafficked by people that they trust. Right. So it'll be a parent, a guardian, someone put into a system. So the statute as it currently stands only requires courts to consider violent offenses like sexual assault, murder, or kidnapping in the case of a custody determination. So my bill would make them also require, has the parent or the guardian attempting to be awarded custody, have they been convicted of human trafficking, and the courts must consider that before making a determination.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned Route 30, but Route 15, right through your district, is another one that's mentioned as a hotspot for human trafficking. Of course, the bill must now be adopted in the Senate and signed into law by the governor. You co-sponsored legislation to repeal an act all the way back in 1935, the Individual Net Income Tax Act. How would that repeal benefit common Pennsylvania.
So I'm actually the prime sponsor on that one as well, and I'm waiting to formally introduce that bill. I'm still working on getting some co-sponsor support for it, but the individual net income tax is something that was actually struck down by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court decades ago. Thankfully, when you read through the bill,
Well, what is it? What is the individual net income tax?
It was essentially a graduated personal income tax that, when you read through it, it was, I don't understand how it passed. It's a terrible piece of legislation, and thankfully it was struck down. But the bill is still the tax is still on the books. It's still part of the tax code, even though it's defunct. Right, it's not collected. Right. But my objective there was to just clean up the tax code. I mean, you talk to any accountant, and I mean, the tax code is just archaic. So this specific individual net income tax is about 50 pages of just nonsense. Terrible tax policy. And my objective was to get it off the books entirely. Remove it from the books, simplify the tax code, and eliminate the chance of it somehow being brought back to life at any point in the future.
You mentioned the tax code is crowded. Are there other things that you're aiming at?
There's a lot of tax reform objectives. The difficulty, of course, being finding common ground with the governor. So I'm a member of a group we call the Economic Growth Caucus, and our entire objective is financial reform, is tax reform. Our objective is to address the corporate net income tax, 9.99, one of the highest in the nation, and one of the reasons that we are just losing businesses, losing jobs, and even though the overall economy is doing well, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that President Trump passed, the deregulation, these things are clearly working. The economy is booming, but Pennsylvania's just kind of fallen to the back of the line because we're not keeping pace with those really common sense reforms. So we're working towards
that tax. Why would it prevent businesses from
corporate net income tax?
Yeah.
So that the corporate net income tax would affect any sort of C Corp entity, so large entities that will end up relocating out of the state or taking their jobs with them, taking their employees, and it just makes Pennsylvania a hostile business state, especially when you add into it all of the other tax burdens that we have. So we do have a corporate net income tax. We also have one of the highest gas taxes in the nation. We have a personal income tax. We have a realty transfer tax. We have an inheritance tax. We have an impact fee on the gas companies. We have all these other things. When you put them all together, we're one of the top 3 most heavily taxed states in the nation. Yeah. So that's one of our biggest things is addressing that. We just had a budget briefing with the Commonwealth Foundation yesterday at the House, and they provided us with some numbers that are just really disturbing. As you probably know, Pennsylvania is set to lose a congressional seat this upcoming census cycle, and the number of people leaving the state is 20,000, and these are young people. These are 20,000 young people looking for jobs every single year are leaving. It's 54 people a day leave the Commonwealth for greener pastures. Yeah. And that sort of brain drain is unsustainable. So what we need to do is, if we're going to be pro-job, we also need to be pro-business. And part of that is making the business environment more friendly. And that's what the Economic Growth Caucus is all about.
And that, you mentioned that tax, I think it's at 9.99%, yep. And it would roll it down to like 5.9%?
We've got a couple plans out there. So we met with the governor's Secretary of Revenue to try to figure out, where can we find common ground, what can we make work. And the governor has expressed interest in reducing that tax to try to attract businesses back into Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has some good things. We have a flat personal tax, which is a great thing. So we have some good things. Our workforce is fantastic. I've talked to some local business owners who have been thinking about relocating, but they say that, finding the workforce would be hard to do somewhere else. So Pennsylvania does have some attractive qualities. We're centrally located, but that huge corporate net income tax is just keeping people out. So we've got a couple bills out there. One would roll it back 1 or 2 percentage points over a course of time. One would be a flat cut. There's some compromise bills out there. There's a lot of legislation out there to address it, but We're trying to find what's the one we can all get done and what the governor will sign. And that's the tricky part.
Yeah. We're going to take a break right now, and we'll be right back with more from David Rowe.
Sunbury Motors gives you 4 city blocks of new Fords to choose from. Sunbury Motors Ford is coming off their best-selling year in its 105-year history, and they feel pretty good about themselves. SMC has committed to Ford Motor Company to sell 1,000 new Fords in 2020. That means you get to pick from 25 of the totally redesigned 2020 Ford Escapes that start as low as $21,960. Take up to $6,500 off MSRP of the all-new 2020 Ford Explorer, and their price priced from just $34,865. Sunbury Motors is Central PA's truck capital. It's right there on the map. Choose from over 120 new Ford F-150s and Super Duties. The F-Series truck has been the #1 selling vehicle for 43 consecutive years, and SMC has them on sale for as low as $26,794. If you're smart, you'll buy one today. Sunbury Motors in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, proudly serving the Susquehanna Valley's transportation needs for over a century. Sunbury Motors.
Welcome back to One-on-One with David Rowe, the State House Representative for the 85th District. David, we talked about some of the legislation you're sponsoring and co-sponsoring. You have a proposal that you haven't yet introduced, correct?
Yep.
And it addresses labor unions for government employees. Among the aims that I read about it is that it would allow employees to opt out of a union at their choice rather than waiting for the expiration of a labor contract, which can last several years, correct? And it would also require workers to recertify a union via election every 3 years. Tell me, why is this legislation worthy? Why would it benefit a government worker, an average government worker?
Yep. So this bill is essentially a codification of the Supreme Court ruling Janus v. AFSCME, where basically the Supreme Court came down and said, First Amendment rights, you have freedom of association. So we have multiple stories of union members trying to leave their union and essentially not being able to. They will have that very brief 2-week window where they're allowed to leave their union. They'll send in their paperwork all on time, and then the day before the window closes, they'll be told they forgot to check a box or initial something, and you'll have to wait until next year to try again. I'm all about competition. I'm a local small business owner. I think competition is a good thing. Makes the quality of the product better and the price of the product go down. So I think that the same thing should be applied to labor unions. These are all public sector labor unions, where the recertification should be something that the employees want to do. In the state of Pennsylvania, most members of a public sector labor union have never voted to certify their union. They just simply joined the union because it's the same parents that their dad was, the same union their dad was and their grandfather was, and they just did it because they thought they were supposed to. So we want to make sure we are making it, holding the unions to the same standard that any other entity would be held to. In addition, the window of time to allow the member to leave, they could leave at any time. There's some other aspects to it, not using taxpayer resources to collect dues, because we don't think that's appropriate either, specifically since most of these money go towards PACs and spending. We don't think it's appropriate for government resources to be used for political purposes.
Do you think a bill like this, though, weakens labor unions, and doesn't it kind of skew the balance of power to government during, contract negotiations?
No, I don't think at all, because it doesn't weaken the public sector union at all. They will have all the same rights. They will have all the same power. What it will do is will simply empower the employee.
But their strength is in numbers, and
that is correct. And I believe that the union will simply be held to a higher standard where they will want to have to act on behalf of their employees to the point of where their employees want to be a part of that union. And I think that is where that competition lies, where you need to be able to demonstrate your worth to the people who are paying you. So I think that will be the goal there, and I think many people will probably agree. Maybe they are supportive of their public sector union, they'll remain members. Maybe some people will disagree with some of the messaging and the politics that the unions get into, and maybe they won't want to be a part of it. Maybe it'll give the opportunity for other union groups to pop up, and I think competition is always a healthy thing.
One of the interesting parts of that proposal, I thought, was that it would also allow workers to represent themselves in contract negotiations. What would that look like? Would they be bargaining for an individual contract?
So
just an individual one person?
Mm-hmm. So essentially, it would just the union would not be able to force an employee to be a member of the union as a contingent for their employment.
Right.
So if we've had people come to us saying, I was told by my union that I can't have my job if I don't join.
Okay.
And we've, Janice now says, no, you can't do that. Your membership cannot be, the determining factor for whether or not you get to keep your job. So that would allow them to essentially say, hey, you know what, I'm able to keep my job and still bargain, but I'm just not a member of the union. And the objective here with all of this is simply to protect workers' rights, to give employees the option to speak for themselves if they want, and if not, to be a part of a union. Hopefully that union works hard to get their support. But this is all about employees' rights.
So would their salary still be dictated by whatever contract the union strikes? Mm-hmm. Okay. So it seems almost a little unfair in the sense that they're not a member of this union, but they're benefiting from the work that's being put into getting a larger salary, or better benefits.
I consider it a comparison to any other sort of advocacy group. So let's take the Chamber of Commerce, for example. My business is a member of the Chamber of Commerce. I personally am a member of the Chamber of Commerce because I believe and support the efforts, the messaging of the Chamber of Commerce. And their messaging is, let's cut taxes, let's create jobs, let's be pro-business. Everything the Chamber is all about, I support them for that, even though maybe directly I'm not getting any benefit. Now, there's another business down the street that might not be a member of the Chamber, and they're still enjoying those same sorts of things that the Chamber goes for, because if we end up cutting the corporate net income tax, they're going to benefit from it too. So for me, I think an advocacy group is can be supported if its messaging is on target. So I support the Chamber. The guy down the street might not, but I'm still going to because I support their messaging, I support their efforts. Same thing with the public sector unions. Their efforts, their goals should be such that people want to support them. And if people don't want to support them, maybe they're not doing the best job that they could be.
Right. Interesting. So, on a lighter topic.
Sure.
You and a fellow House member had an impromptu jam session in the Capitol
Yes, we
Rotunda. That was right around Christmas time. I
Yes.
think it was 2 days before Christmas.
Yes. Yep.
And you were doing a piano duet in the Capitol Rotunda. Are those pianos always there, by the way?
So there's one piano in the main rotunda. There's one piano in the East Wing rotunda, and they
Okay.
keep them there because you'll have high school choirs that come in or little music numbers just to do presentations. So they keep them there just.
So
in
they were
case.
just rolled out.
Yeah.
And you guys just sat down randomly? Tell me about how that came to pass.
So Andrew Lewis and I were actually friends from years and years ago. We were both homeschooled. Our groups overlapped. The homeschooled is very small, so we had known each other as kids.
And where does Andrew Lewis from?
He grew up in Perry County. Now he lives in the Linglestown area, so he represents northern Dauphin County. So we had known each other for a long time. We ended up, surprisingly, sitting next to each other on the House floor. Totally, not requested, just total random chance, which was really fun. And we were sitting there during a particularly lengthy amendment debate. And so we were chatting about, Christmas and things like that. We talked about music. We realized we both played the piano. And we thought it would be fun to do something like this. So we were at the governor's Christmas party, and we decided to duck out a little early, went back to the Capitol while nobody was there, rolled the pianos out, sat down, just went for it. One of Andrew's friends came and filmed the whole thing on his iPhone, surprisingly. We had a couple of people ask us who our videography team was. There's a guy with a phone.
You got a lot of attention from that video.
We did. I had... it's been seen over 1 million times. I got people at the farm show stopping me, being like, "Hey, you're the piano guy," and they don't even know they don't know I'm a state representative. They don't know who I am, but I'm the piano guy, and I think that's all right. I could be known as worse things, right?
That's fantastic. That's really cool. And given your talents, we have a surprise for you. We have this.
Oh, boy.
We don't have. This isn't the rotunda, and we don't have. A great piano, but what we do have
I'm missing some keys there.
is this. This is my daughter, Allison.
Oh, does Allison play?
Allison sometimes bangs it. Think you can play us a little couple notes from Oh Holy Night?
We're missing some keys here. Hey, meow. Oh wait, that's wait. Right, shining. Now I'm getting my Christmas carols Christmas carols messed up. Okay.
Fantastic, David. Thank you for being a good sport, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Eric.
And thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.